right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, glad you could join us. It is the battle, as we are calling it on the show today. Yes, it is the battle over Draq Queen Story Time. We're taking your phone calls. It's going to be rapid fire, so please make your point very fast. Our phone lines are jammed, but best chance to get in when we go to another caller. Give us a buzz, 257-5396. Let's go to Brian. Brian, you're first on the Vegas Take. What's up?
What's up, Brian?
Well, guys, I really enjoy the fact that you had two opposing guys there. Much more enlightening than the other day when Chris was the only guest for almost a half an hour.
Well, I will respond to that and say that we reached out to Mass Resistance, and it took them several days to get back to us.
So that was very enlightening. Number one, Chris kept avoiding the questions. Number one, let me read something from their webpage. This is Equality Nevada sponsorship page. Many thanks to our corporate sponsors statewide. And then there's amounts of money, $25,000 plus, 15 to 24, on and on and on. And then there's a list of the sponsors, and then a list of the media sponsors, and all the other things. So he lied on the air to you when he said,
well, you know what I'm going to do?
Corporate sponsors.
Well, and that's a valid point, Brian. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. If we invite Chris back on, I will absolutely address that with him because I was unaware of that.
One other thing is, does he really want to equate Santa with a drag queen?
Yeah, that was rough.
Story time.
Well, I laughed at that because I thought it was kind of funny. Brian, always good to hear from you. And I'm glad you brought that up. I promise you I will bring that up with Chris when we have him on again. 257-5396 is the number to call. Rebecca, why don't we go to Rebecca? Rebecca, thank you for calling in to the Vegas Take. How are you?
What's up, Rebecca?
Hi, I'm doing well. I was actually just calling because I'm fully in support of Draq Queen Reading Hour. I think that children should be exposed to different types of people around them, and the more exposure that they get, the less likely that children are to turn into bullies to other kids who maybe don't identify the way that they do. And on top of that, Drag Queen has nothing to do with sexualization.
Yeah.
It's purely just the way that somebody wants to dress. It's, yes, more gay guys.
I tend to agree with you.
Drag queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are a ton of straight guys who are also drag queens, and quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how they choose to dress. So let kids get exposed to it. It's like dress up. Who cares?
I tend to agree with you, Rebecca. You make a valid point. Let me ask you this. Do you have kids?
I actually adopt, but currently no.
If you had a young child, would you let a young child sit on a drag queen's lap?
Absolutely. No issue with that.
All right, fair enough.
Human being.
Fair enough.
Unless they're a pedophile, but they're not. There's
right.
no correlation between drag queens and
right. So
pedophilia.
as long as you knew that there was proper background checks,
right,
you'd be fine with it.
Fair call, Rebecca, and I appreciate your point of view on this one. 257-5396. I believe our next caller is Mike. Mike, what's going on?
What's up, Mike?
Mike, are you there? We lost Mike. 257-5396. Let's go to, I believe our next phone caller is Craig. Craig, we lost Craig as well. 257-5396. Let's go to Brady. Brady, what's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Like I said, this drag queen thing, reading in the library, is absolutely asinine. Who in the hell was their idea to go read in the library to young kids? Couldn't they pick a different place? And no, I would not let my kid or my other kid sit on any of them drag queen sexual deviant laps ever.
Okay, so let me pull back on you a little bit there. Do you believe every single person that is a drag queen is a sexual deviant?
There's plenty of them that are.
That's not what I asked you. I said, do you believe every single drag queen is a sexual deviant?
Probably not, but
okay. So why do you generalize?
I
why
don't
do you
want my kid groomed into
That's
that
fine. I don't have a problem with you having that opinion. But Brady, the reason why I get frustrated when you call it because you make generalizations. You just admitted now that no, probably not. And you're right. Not every drag queen is a sexual deviant. So why do you make a statement, I don't want them sitting on those sexual deviants' lap? You're making a generalization that is unfair, Brady.
Because I actually looked up, and there was one lady whose name was Miss Kitty Litter, and she was reading to the kids in Texas. And they happened to look up in her background, and
you just said it, Brady. One lady.
Sexual offender.
Okay, that's one lady. There's a lot of straight men that are sexual offenders too.
Other ones, and they found a whole bunch of.
Well, you know
ones.
what? What if I said every person on the right that supports Donald Trump that's biased is a sexual deviant. Would you agree with that statement, Brady? Because of that one person that supports Donald Trump is a rapist. So does that mean everybody's a rapist? Do you understand how ridiculous you sound?
Why would you want your kids?
You're not answering the question. Okay, goodbye. Don't make generalizations. I gave you several opportunities to clear up what you said. You sound like a buffoon as usual. Chris Wynn, our friend who comes on our show every Monday, joining us online. Chris, what do you think about all this?
Gentlemen, this is great radio. I have to point that out. A couple of quick points. I think that when we're talking about Chris and the drag queens there, when it comes to the LGBT community, okay, it's about acceptance, right? It's about tolerance. That is really the mindset of those people. And when it comes to Arthur and those who are evangelicals or those who are against homosexuality, it's all about intolerance and not acceptance, okay? I'm going to start off by saying that. Secondly, real quickly, all right, they talked about, these drag queens in storytelling time, all right? There's nothing sexual whatsoever that's being done when it comes to these actual events going on, okay? And by the way, Arthur talks about drag queens as if he goes to as he's an expert or something, as if he goes to drag shows all the time, all right? I'm somebody, full disclosure, who is a straight man who went to college in Massachusetts, who spent 2 summers working on the Cape, okay, on Cape Cod. There's a town in Cape Cod called Provincetown. It's a prominently gay town, okay? They're very accepting there. It is also a town where straight people on the Cape go to shopping during the day, and there are drag shows there, okay, that you can go to. It's singing and dancing.
All right, well, for the record,
sexual
you made a lot of good points there, and for the record, I just want to end this conversation by saying if you dressed in drag and did storytelling, I would go and see it. I'm just telling you right now, I would see it.
Absolutely go and see it, and it would be entertaining as heck.
I absolutely
it was
would.
entertaining for me,
Chris,
and a couple of my straight friends when we went to Provincetown.
Only if it was all Matt Christopher books.
It'd be good stuff. I'm telling you.
C-Wen, I love it when you call in. You're always fired up, my man. Thank you for the phone call.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
I got to get to some other callers. Thank you. 257-5396. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're next on the Vegas Take. What do you think about all this?
What's up, Mike?
Oh, that's what you think about it. Okay.
That's what I like to hear.
257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Matt. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up?
So, to me, it's just blatant bigotry. I mean, if it were any other aspect of the person that they were focused on, it would be unacceptable. But, you have this guy on who's calling them all sexual deviants.
Yeah, it's stupid.
That's just blatantly wrong.
You can't make an all-encompassing statement like that. Are some, of course, and as long as the safeguards are in place to prevent those from getting part of this program, I don't have a huge issue with it.
It's part of my plan and part of my job. When people call up and say stupid things, I like to point that out. That's all.
And Arthur wasn't a stupid guy.
No, I'm not talking about Arthur. I'm talking about Brady, who called them all sexual deviants. Matt, that's who you're referring to, right?
Yeah, well, Arthur said it many times as well.
Yeah, Arthur said it a couple of times.
If Arthur did say that, I apologize, Matt, because I probably should have gone after him for that, but it's very difficult when you have 2 people on the line. I kind of want them to go at it with each other.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. All right, I'll tell you what we're going to try to do here, because we have a lot of people on hold, and I want to get to as many calls as I can. We also have Mr. X coming up in the next segment, so we will have Mr. X coming up here in a little bit, but I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to get Mr. X to join us at 11 a.m. so that I could take more of these phone calls, and I will take more of them on the other side of the break. Okay, gentlemen? So Gary, Matt, Lewis, John, all those guys that are on hold right now, I'm going to get to your calls on the other side of the break. I promise you that, and we're going to schedule Mr. X for 11 a.m. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. We will continue this conversation on the other side. Again, 257-5396. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. This is the Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Thursday. Coming up, by the way, in hour number 3, we'll be talking to the Hollywood conservative, Mr. X. I also did promise we would take your phone calls on this issue, the battle over Draq Queen Story Time. If you've been listening or maybe you just tuned in, we had a few gentlemen on the line. One, his name is Chris Davin, who is with Equality Nevada, who supports drag queens storytelling at libraries, and it's in some situations kids sitting on their laps. And then on the other side, we had a group called Mass Resistance, who is obviously anti-gay, right? Anti, if you don't live a straight lifestyle, and they're picketing and they're trying to shut these people down. His name is Arthur Shapiro, so he was on the line. And now I promised I would take a little bit more time to take some of your calls on our very busy phone line. And if you want to give us a buzz, we only have 2 lines open right now. That number is 702-257-5396. What do you think about this issue? Are you okay with drag queens reading to children in libraries? It's happening right here in Henderson, folks. Are you okay with that? And if you're not okay with it, do you think they should be shut down? Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 257-5396. Let's start off with Lewis. Lewis, thanks for calling in and being patient. What's on your mind?
What's up, Lewis?
Hey, guys. I disagree with you. I don't think the guy was anti-gay. He was just anti this particular movement.
Well, he called gay people sexually deviant. I mean, he did use that term.
Look, that's his opinion.
So obviously he's against people who are homosexual. I mean, right? Can we just be clear on that?
Okay. Yes, it's your show. I'm not going to go down this route.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Lewis.
So, look, I don't have a problem with gay people or trans people or whatever, but I do agree with the resistance person that the agenda is behind everything. And here's what I'm going to base it on, okay? He said that there's kids from anywhere up to 1 to whatever, 19.
Correct. Yes.
What happens if a 2-year-old, 3-year-old asks the drag queen a question?
Well,
right? As a parent, my appropriate answer would be, that's what he feels like dressing like today.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, in the agenda answer is to try to give some elaborate, well-coerced, well-thought-out answer, further confusing the child.
So do you know if that's going on?
Look, like I said, I'm only speaking for myself.
I understand. I'm just asking you a personal question. Do you know how they answer those questions? Because I don't, Lewis.
Okay, well, look, that's why I'm telling you. Just listen for a second. My niece, nephew, whatever, who's trans, who I love very dearly, when they came out to me, which is fine, I don't have a problem with them, the first question out of his mouth was, what do you feel about my community?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
How I feel about their community should be irrelevant as long as I love the person. And that's why I base it on its agenda-driven.
All right.
And they will give you a well-thought-out, rehearsed, nicely sounding answer as to why it isn't.
Right. All right. Well, listen.
It is agenda-driven.
All right. Well, Lewis,
I don't have a problem.
I get what you're saying. You don't have a problem with people who are homosexuals or gay, but you have a problem with the agenda. I get what you're saying. I guess what I was trying to ask you is, have you been to one of these events before? Do you know what type of answers they're giving? And unless I'm there, I'm not going to make that assumption, but I appreciate the call, Lewis. Thank you. 257-5396. Jessica, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. What do you think about this?
Hi. So as I'm kind of going to touch base with children and having, young kids like Rebecca had talked about.
Right.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, but it's not because I don't agree with drag queens. I grew up in a small town in Iowa, and I wasn't exposed.
So did I, Jessica.
And I don't think that changes my opinion at all, or makes me unexposed to it and questioning it. I just think, as children, as an example here, when you have birthday parties and you're young, everything's really elaborate to the child's mind. So when you see people dressed up in ostentatious makeup, and that's what drag queens do. That's the whole idea of this. And in the industry I work in, I see it a lot. It doesn't change how I feel. But like I'm saying, kids can actually get even opposite understanding of it, because their imaginations are so wild, and they take everything to the next level.
Yeah. No.
And sometimes you're actually going to traumatize them more than what you are going to help the situation.
Well, and listen, Jessica, I would never take the right for you to have that opinion. You're certainly entitled to it. And I don't have a problem with anything you said. I disagree with some of what you said, but that's here nor there. Let me ask you this question, okay? Are you one of those people that would take the time to picket outside a library and bash homosexuality, Or are you the type of person that I think you are, and that you're just saying, listen, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't go anywhere near there, and I wouldn't bring my kids near there?
You know what? I wouldn't bash, and I would take my child absolutely just to expose them, to get them in their under certain circumstances, I guess.
I understand.
As a parent, it's our responsibility to take a step back and analyze the pros and cons of what's going on in your child's life and what's appropriate.
Sure.
And there's no yes or no or black or white on this. I think there's a big gray area, and that's a lot of situations in life, and we forget that on certain topics. And we need to definitely take a step back and look at the situation as a whole. And that's our job as adults, even.
Agree.
Is to do what's right or wrong. You know, we make those tough decisions, and that's the part about being an adult.
Well, at the end of the day, you're going to raise your own kid. You're going to raise your own child, and you're going to be a part of their life. Typically, if they're 15 or 18 years old, on a very, very consistent basis. So it is your right to decide what you think is going to help them shape their future and what you think isn't going to help them shape their future.
And listen, Jessica absolutely has the right to feel that way. When somebody says something that is not factual, that's when I interject and I get upset. Jessica didn't say anything that was not factual. She doesn't agree with what they're doing. She stated her case. It's an opinion. It is not an opinion when you call into the show and say that all drag queens are sexual deviants. You are a moron, and you are a homophobic bigot if you feel that way, as far as I'm concerned. And if somebody starts a phone call on this show and says something that is, any type of bigotry or attacks a race or sexual orientation, I am going to call you out for it. She did not do that. We disagree, but she stated her opinions eloquently, and I respect that. There is a fine line and a fine difference between disagreeing with someone and then somebody calling in and saying something that is racist or homophobic. It is something that we both on this show will not tolerate. The number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Jennifer. Jennifer, what's going on?
What's up, Jennifer?
Uh-oh. Thank you, Jennifer. That was a very good phone call. We also don't like it when people call into the show and then hang up.
That's happened 4 times today, Brian.
It has happened quite a bit. 257-5396. Let's go to Travis. Travis, thanks for calling into the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Travis.
Hey, what's happening, dudes? First of all, I'm not a parent, so I am nobody to judge how anyone else raised their child. They can do whatever they want. But, okay, so JD asked the guy what the ages were.
Yeah.
He says from 1 to 19.
Correct.
I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. The 19-year-old who asked their mom to take him to the library and have a tranny read him children's stories.
Well, my first reaction...
You got to watch out for it, in my mind.
Well, my first reaction to that is if I'm 19 years old and I have to ask my parents' permission to go to the library, there's something wrong with that relationship. A 19-year-old should be able to go to the library when they please. I understand you have to be the age of 21 to... drink alcohol, and there's certain things you can't do when you're 19, but there's a lot of things you could do on your own when you're 19, and I would like to say you're an adult when you're 19 years old. If you want to go to the library and you want somebody to read to you that's dressed in drag and you're 19, that should be your decision, not your parents' decision. Now, if we're talking about an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, that's a completely different scenario. But as far as being 19 years old, Travis, I'm sure you would agree, you're old enough to make that decision for yourself.
Right, but I don't know. I think you got to watch out for that guy, in my opinion. 19-year-olds shouldn't want to go to a library and have a transvestite read children's stories to them.
Right.
I'd be more concerned about subjecting my kids to that, and nobody's touching on that.
That's interesting that you bring that up.
Again, Travis, that's in your mind.
That's your opinion,
That is 100% your opinion.
There might be...
That has nothing to do with them or their parents. I thought that, and I asked the question because I wanted to get an idea of what the standard age was, and I wanted him to say 8 or 10 or 9, but 1 to 19 was kind of a vague answer. I wasn't a huge fan of that, and I think 1 is too early. I think it should start maybe around 4 or 5. I think having a 1-year-old... sit on a drag queen's lap and have them be read to is a bit of an issue.
But I want to play devil's advocate with Travis here real quickly, Travis, if that's okay.
Go ahead. I call for your opinion.
Yes. So let's just say, hypothetically, I'm 19 years old. There's probably some 19-year-old people out there that find drag queens interesting. They might find them interesting for different reasons. Now, it could be sexual, but it also could be they just like the way they dress or they like the makeup. Who knows? The point I'm trying to make, Travis, is we're all different people. What you find different to somebody else might be normal, right? So you have to think that way. I think the problem with what you're doing, Travis, is you're thinking with your own mind and your your own beliefs, and that's okay, but you can't put yourself in someone else's shoe and say, well, everybody thinks the way I think. There are plenty of people out there that find cross-dressing interesting. I'll tell you my personal belief on cross-dressing. I'm not sexually attracted to it, but if one of my friends decided to dress in drag and read to kids, I would find that hilarious, and I would probably go and watch because I would find it entertaining. And it has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do. I would just find it funny. I find some men, not all, but some men that dress in female clothing to be very entertaining and funny. You understand where I'm going with this?
I'm with you, but all right.
Okay, Travis.
You think it's normal for a 19-year-old to want to go have children's stories read to them with their parents?
You keep saying the word normal, and I think what you fail to recognize, now it's not something that I would do. It's not, but you keep using that term normal, and the definition of normal is different between every single different human being that's out there.
I think, Travis, I think the laws are set up so that a 19-year-old can make that decision on their own.
Exactly.
And you have absolutely no input on that. Neither do I, neither does Brian.
Yeah. Travis, I appreciate the phone call, my friend.
Thanks for the call, Travis.
I hope we answered your question. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the show, I believe you have Steve next. That number to call is 257-5396 is the number to call. The GCI Guys hotline is open, 257-5396. And let's go to Steve. Steve, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
What's up, Steve?
Well, okay, here's the way I see it. Okay, as a young boy, about 10 or 11 years old, riding up Broadway Street in San Francisco with my mother, I grew up on Telegraph Hill, there was a strip club that had put a cage up with a girl in a flesh-colored bathing suit. At 10 or 11 years old, driving past that, my little penis got so hard I didn't know what to do with myself.
Whoa. Hold on. Okay, is this a serious...
Let me just continue.
Okay, but no, I'm not going to... No, hold on a second. Hold on a sec. Steve, you can't be graphic sexually on this show. If you want to have...
I'm not being graphic.
Okay, well, you're talking about your genitals, and you have to be careful with the verbiage that you use, okay? So I'm going to ask you to be PG-13. I will let you continue with this story, but please be careful with your wording. Can you do that for me?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a perfectly good scientific word, but we'll continue on.
Well,
anyway,
no,
this
it's
caused
FCC.
so much outrage in the neighborhood that they finally closed this down. It lasted, I think, 1 or 2 months, and then they stopped putting the girl up in the cage because it had an effect on youngsters who just happened to have to travel past there with their parents.
Okay.
Anything that is sexually different than just mom and dad hugging each other and kissing each other should not be allowed to children. That's, I think, and that's the point that gentleman.
So let me ask you a question then. Well, I understand. Okay. I understand the point you're trying to make here. So let me kind of retort a little bit and let me respond to that. First of all, we have to understand. And by the way, this is coming from a straight man. Okay, that there is a large part of this country and this world that is not straight. They're not like you and me. They're not straight. That's number one. Number two, in the history, certainly since I've been alive, homosexuality, they have been looked down upon. They have been looked at as different. It is not like a straight person. Nobody ever didn't get a job somewhere because they were straight. Nobody was looked down upon in this country because they are straight. But if you are gay, there are plenty of... We use the term all the time, right? Closet homosexuals, and it's probably a negative term. Sadly, there are many people in society that are afraid still to this day in 2019 to come out and say they are gay because they're afraid of the consequences. Steve, with all due respect, I'm sorry, my friend, but that's wrong. So for you to say that kids shouldn't be subjected to the fact that there are people out there in the world that are not like mom and dad, I disagree with you.
You know, sexuality is a personal preference, and it should be kept in the bedroom, not in public.
So people shouldn't be allowed to say who they are? People shouldn't be allowed to say, hey, I'm proud to be gay. This is who I am. You have a problem with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But to take it into a library and expose children to it, I think is wrong.
What if it has nothing to do with sexuality?
I'm a straight man, too.
I'm a straight man, too. I understand.
I grew up in a very sexual environment in North Beach.
Steve, I get what you're saying, but what if it has nothing to do with sexuality? It's just someone that happens to like to dress in drag. By the way, JD made a very good point. Not everybody who dresses in drag is gay. There are plenty of straight people out there that dress in drag.
Milton Berle.
Okay, there are people.
Milton Berle?
Yes, I do. But the point I'm trying to make is there are people that dress in drag that are not necessarily gay. Some of them are straight. And if it has nothing to do with sexuality, and if it's somebody up there at a library that has never been arrested of a crime, I don't see anything wrong with it. That's just my opinion, Steve.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and some of us feel that it's not proper, that children should not be exposed to that.
And you know
sort of
what,
thing.
Steve? I would never take that right away from you, and you have the right not to go there and for your kids not to go there. To me, this is no different than a radio show. If you don't like a radio show, nobody's forcing you to listen, right? I don't like the Kardashians. Do you see me watching the Kardashians every day? Do you see me picketing outside the Kardashian residence? No. I just don't watch because I don't care, because I think they're a bunch of nitwits, okay? I don't watch. It's a free country. I don't understand why people don't understand that concept. Now, if someone's been accused of sexual assault, or if somebody has a record, no, I don't want them up there talking to kids. That could be a cross-dresser or any teacher for that matter. And there are rules, by the way, in our school system for that. You can't be convicted of a felony and be a teacher. And it's no different here, in my personal opinion. 257-5396 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Again, that's 257-5396. Let's go to Craig. Craig, thanks for calling in.
Well, I'm sitting here listening to this, and, man, you are wrong on so many levels.
Okay, how's that?
I don't even know where to start. I'm sitting here just chafing at the bit.
Okay, we'll start somewhere, please.
You say it's okay for people to do this, and it's okay for people to be dressed as and say anything about it. We should just accept it. Well, that's fine, but we say something about it. Next thing you know, we're total racist.
Excuse me, that's not what I said. Have I called one person on the show a racist? You just started by saying something that's... No.
I've actually never heard of someone be called racist who is homophobic.
Are you listening? Excuse me, hold on.
The word you meant there was homophobic,
okay,
not
Craig,
racist.
Craig, what have you not been listening the last hour? You say you're chopping at the bit. Why don't you try listening? I said you have the right to feel that way. If you don't agree with the lifestyle that they're living, I totally support that. I've said that several times this hour,
right,
by the way.
But the thing is you said yes. You could. You're totally. That's your opinion. You can agree to dislike it. But if you say something, if you verbalize it, next thing you know, you're a total homophobe.
Once again, that is not what I said. Let me. Okay, let's see if you could listen for 20 seconds, because clearly you have no clue what I said. What I said is somebody that calls in and says that all people, and generalizes that all people that dress in drag are sexual deviants, you are a moron. A moron would make a statement like that. You're basically saying that all homosexuals...
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, that's what I'm talking about, because that's what I said on the radio. It's not my fault you don't know how to listen in your car. Why don't you pay attention? Okay, you want to go to something else? Go to something else, but don't be factually inaccurate on this show.
I'm paying attention. What I'm paying attention to is that we're not allowed to say anything.
I just told you what bothers me. I just said you have the right to not agree with this dressing and drag stuff. Don't bring your kids there. I would never take that away from you. Do you want me to repeat myself again? Are you wearing earplugs?
You say don't take your kids there, but then next thing you know, you have parents that totally warp their children who are pure and innocent, that they take their kids in there and warp their minds from day one.
Well, that's your opinion. You think your opinion is if somebody dresses in drag and reads a book that is not sexual in any way, shape, or form, you think that is hurting these kids. You think that warps their mind. I simply disagree with you. And what I've said a gazillion times, and I'll say it again.
Well, no, but you can't say it doesn't have any influence on their minds. Obviously it does, because their minds are developing.
If it's not sexual.
If they're 2 to 8 or 2 to 10 or 2 to even 16, their minds are still developing. So there is some influence.
Okay, but
if you do this one time, what are the chances of the influence being as aggressive as it is if you do it 10 or 15 times? I think that if you take your child to this consistently, there is a good chance that it influences their upbringing. Like I don't see how you can argue that.
And like your previous caller, I agree with him 100%.
Okay, well that's fine.
There is a hidden agenda.
I get your point, Craig. I think there's an agenda for you because you don't listen to what I say. I think that's your agenda. 257-5396. Let's go to Jennifer. Jennifer, what's going on?
Good one, Brian. What's up, Jennifer?
Yeah. Hi, good morning. I'm listening to all sides of this, and, I've been open-minded. But the fact is, and you're a little hard on Brady, kids are exposed to all kinds of things on the internet.
That's true.
On TV and at school. I just don't, and, by their own parents, how they want to deal with different people. But it it is inappropriate at a library.
Okay,
it
well,
really
again,
it could be at some other.
Jennifer,
event.
I understand. You're against it. I get it. You want it. You may be another venue. Jennifer, here's why I was quote unquote hard on Brady. He started the conversation by saying and generalizing that all cross-dressers are sexually deviant. That's why, Jennifer. I'm not being hard on you. You're entitled to your opinion. You don't agree with it. I understand where you're coming from, and I would never take that right away from you, just like I wouldn't with anybody else.
I don't think that they're all predators or anything, but I just feel like it's just kind of a degradation of society as we're going farther down against our morals. I'm not judging other people as far as trying to be God here or Jesus, but it's just a moral breakdown of our society.
Well, I get it, Jennifer. We just disagree. I don't think being a homosexual, you're breaking any moral ground. I think people have a right to express their sexuality and be who they are, Jennifer. I appreciate the phone call. We just disagree on that. I'm glad to hear you say that you don't believe that all homosexuals are sexual deviants, because unfortunately there's a lot of idiots out there that do think that way, and I think one of them is our Vice President, Mike Pence, by the way. One more really quick phone call. Gary, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just want to say I'm a very tolerant kind of guy, and but we are at war with Islamic terrorists, and I don't want to see drag queens singing the national anthem next. And I hate to use that word slippery slope, but I think it's over the top at this time in our history.
All right.
Unless they want to be there once or twice a year.
I think what we should do is we should have a bunch of. What we should do is we should have a bunch of Islamic terrorists have to sit at a table and listen to a bunch of drag queens 24 hours a day read books. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take. Mr. X coming up next. 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.